Totally buying beer.
All right. Well,
That's a lot of beer for $115.
yeah. Welcome into the Fairview Social Podcast. If you would like to watch the videos of these episodes, you can now watch them on Spotify.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can. And the rumor has it that it's coming to Apple Podcasts too.
Really?
But if you don't have Spotify and you don't want to wait for Apple Podcasts, then you can watch this episode on YouTube. So every episode is uploaded to that.
Awesome.
So we are on part 2 of what we've called the President's Project, where we are going through all of the presidents, and we're going to say some of the most known facts, some of the lesser known facts, some of the scandals that the president may have been involved in, and the messed up things, maybe things that, you know, they wouldn't want you to know about.
No, sure.
About their personal lives.
Realizing that what happened 227 years ago is happening present day.
Yes, it's a very relevant.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So, to recap, we did George Washington on the last episode. Check that out if you have not checked it out yet. It was pretty cool. And I will say that a couple disclaimers. One, we are not historians.
We're getting a little better.
2, I mentioned this last time, but I know for sure my ignorance is on display. Mike is becoming a scholar in this.
I dove in. I mean, this is getting. I mean, by 46.
Yeah.
I mean, we maybe get honorary degrees from somewhere.
We might as well. And so, I do want to say, you know, we talked about George Washington. We talked about his enslaved people teeth that he would buy off of them. You know, we kind of rewind in your mind and take yourself back to where none of this modern technology is here. Yeah. Everything's just, you know, horses, and you can't pick up a cell phone and call somebody. You can't do any of those things. But I did want to share something pretty cool that after the podcast last time, we sat down with G-Dubs himself.
He was such a nice guy.
And he came up to us, and we asked for a picture, and we got a picture with him.
Yeah, it was amazing. He came to our office.
Yeah, he did. He said, hey, guys, I know you haven't released this episode yet, but you did okay for being a couple amateurs.
Oh, man.
So anyway, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But as we move forward, like I said, this series will probably look a little bit different with each episode because we're kind of we'll get into the swing of things.
Yeah.
But this is where we're at right now. So this is what you got.
I think what we'll see is G-Dub was a good starting point.
Yes.
Mr. John Adams will be a next evolution. And then from where I went from my notes to old TJ.
Yeah.
Let's watch out.
All right. So John Adams was the second president of the United States. And so I was thinking about this earlier today. I'm putting myself back in that time, and I'm thinking, you know, George Washington did 2 terms. Mm-hmm. He decided not to run again.
Yeah.
And so John Adams went up against, who did he go up against?
Well, no, he didn't. Adams here said he had inherited.
Oh, that's right. That's
inherited.
Right. He inherited it. But so the first thing that I think about when I think of John Adams is I can relate to the fella because he's plump. And that's part of some of the stuff that it talks
Very
about
true.
here in history of, you know, people just making fun of him because he's fat and all that kind of stuff. But so he was the second president of the United States from 1797 to 1801.
Yep.
And so something that I think is very notable here, which we can talk about, is that there was a peaceful transfer of power, which was not normal. Revolutions often ended up in coups, dictators, or civil war. And that happens even today all over the world with this stuff. And so to be able to, George Washington pass the torch to John Adams and gracefully leave office.
It's fascinating. That's where you started, because of it was what we've learned here is that they were complete opposite, George Washington to John Adams. Kind of their philosophies.
Yeah.
So to have that peaceful transfer, I wrote down here, is very interesting, because rarely do we have, or have we seen that. I know on camera in today's day, it looks peaceful, but no, absolutely very interesting.
Well, if you think about it, again, if you put yourself back in that time, think about George Washington doing this thing for 8 years and kind of figuring things out. And if you kind of look at it from the people's perspective back then, it's just like they're rolling along, and it's just, okay, we got this new thing going on, and they're trying to put it all together, still trying to figure things out. And then, and then John Adams comes in, and, the government's still under construction. It's people are consistently suspicious of like, hey, are we going to get back into this, get back into a monarchy? And what we have here is that we started splitting into two parties.
That's right. It said here he was terrified of anything that smelled like a monarchy. I mean, so you have him coming in and it's following strict laws.
Yeah.
And bringing that aspect into government.
Yeah.
As a leader.
So, well, you had G-Dubs as George Washington. What do we call him? J-Ad. Old J-Ad.
I know, we'll have to ask him. I mean, we got clearance from GW to call him that.
Well, maybe by the next episode, you'll see us with you'll see us with J-Ad. So, okay, the next one says he's a driving force for independence.
Yeah.
Adams was a leading voice pushing for independence in the Continental Congress. He argued that reconciliation with Britain was a dead end, and the colonies needed to commit fully to separation. And so I made a note on that about how, maybe the people were just like, well, they were scared, and maybe we just need to go back to Big Brother across the pond,
Yeah. No, it was the what they say was he feared kind of bringing back anything that bringing back the monarch that we just fought against. I mean, it's again taking another step to solidifying what we'll see, in the next episode with Thomas Jefferson and
Tom J.
and really kind of following the Declaration of Independence and the steps to this. I mean, it's really fascinating to see what we will learn here about John Adams. Smart guy, followed the laws.
He was a diplomat in Europe.
He was a diplomat in Europe and was really the first vice president, they said here too.
Yeah.
So you see what was started again 229 years ago or 20 some years ago or 299 years ago, it's still in play today.
Yeah.
And it's like a learning, I kind of look at the vice president as someone that's kind of in a learning position.
Yeah, to kind of step into the role.
To step in. Doesn't always work that way, right? And we see that through government, and that's what makes us such a great country. But it's kind of the first vice president of the United States.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned he was vice president, and we have here, it says the vice president job is useless.
Yeah.
And so you think about that even now, what does the vice president do other than wait for something to happen to the president? I know that he's the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
He's the tiebreaker, but a lot of times it's, at least in modern history, the parties use the Democrat as to get a bump,
right,
and that kind of stuff. So even back then, I guess my point is John Adams, which was the first vice president of the United States and the second president of the United States, knew that the vice president position was pointless.
Yeah.
And so hopefully back then, and maybe we'll see it when we get into more presidents and in the future, that these people that are vice presidents are kind of on the job training, which I think has happened over history.
And it is fascinating. We'll go back what you said about the diplomat, that you realize how smart these guys were.
Yeah.
They know they needed certain money for you mentioned in here to continue survival. It says you can't pay. If you can't pay, you can't survive. We'll see that with Thomas Jefferson. I mean, these guys were just
They were
smart individuals.
Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it, because we're like, well, why aren't people smart like this anymore? But I guess that people are smart like this.
Yeah, they
there's
absolutely
people that are always look at life as like, what am I doing, or what are these people doing to move the needle forward?
Yeah.
What are they doing to improve? Now, obviously, after 250 years, we're still here, so something is happening.
Sure.
So, but yeah.
No, we just see it now because we turn on the news and we can get all the information we want. Back here, you've got it's infighting inside your party. It's what you're seeing in these different colonies. So they're dealing with the same things.
Yeah.
It's just for us, we're so used to being able to readily hear both sides.
Yeah.
Or what we want to hear via the news here. So these guys they had to navigate the same kind of stuff.
Yeah. In some aspects, it's probably even worse.
Yeah.
Because people are just, think about forming the country. Like I said a minute ago, some people were probably like, I don't know if we need to do this. I like things are fine. And then we got this ragtag group of like cowboys that are like, no.
Well, it's taking a little baby and nurturing it to grow under your beliefs, trying to fight off, again, like we said with George Washington, all the history of Europe.
Yeah.
And what they, knew as leadership, and fighting that monarchy off, those kings off, it's in trying to really push yourself to form a country.
Yeah.
And it's such a small point here. We're still talking about 13 colonies.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to the point where we're expanding.
Yeah.
So
another thing that John Adams was known for is the quasi-war with France. And so I think that this is notable because this is basically the way that our Navy was established.
Yeah.
So Adams supported strengthening defense, but worried a full war would fracture the country and empower extremists. He tried to keep conflict limited, defended commerce, avoid invasion panic, and prevent the republic from militarizing itself into fear. And so I think that it's worth noting that, this period mattered because it's when the U.S. naval identity starts forming.
Yeah, pretty darn cool.
And so, that's pretty cool.
Pretty darn cool. I think the next point that you kind of talk about here is just, it's fascinating.
The Alien and Sedition Acts.
Which...
tell us what the Alien and the Sedition Acts are.
Yeah, again, formed back in 1798. So you think of then to now, 227, if my math is right, 227 years ago, we're seeing it.
Yeah.
In the forefront of what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Right? The key provisions from this was Naturalization Act, increased residency requirements to become a citizen.
Yeah.
Allowed the president to deport non-citizens.
Yeah.
Think
about it. We're not even talking about like, well, let's think about it. What were the immigrants back then? Are we talking like people from across the sea? Or are we talking about like the Native Americans?
Native Americans, people across the sea. Here was, citizenship. It requirements for citizenship from 5 to 14 years. I'm assuming that you had to be in the country for more than 14 years to become, citizens. So same thing, I guess, coming across on the boats, Spain, Europe, wherever. Permitted the arrest and deportation of male citizens from hostile nation during wartime. it's really unbelievable that 227 years ago we are seeing these exact same acts in being pushed.
It's funny though
law.
because you don't think about this type of stuff like we're looking at it through the lens of the modern era, but like this stuff has been going on since the beginning.
They signed it into Congress on July 14th, 1798.
Yeah.
And it was to protect national security. I mean, this is kind of where it was like, holy smokes, this is really to think that 227 years ago, these individuals were shaping laws that are affecting us today.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really starts hitting you as how impressive this country is.
Yeah.
And to navigate it that long.
Yeah, it's
pretty
crazy.
Things could have changed. Wars happened. But these guys knew, and they had the forefront and insight to think that this is going to be really important for the growth of this country.
Yeah. Well, something that people may not know is he was the first president to live in the White House in the 1800s. So in November of 1800, John Adams moved into the president's house, later called the White House in Washington, D.C.
Right.
It was unfinished, walls unplastered, staircases incomplete, and floors not fully done. And so I got online earlier and I was trying to find a picture of what it would have looked like.
Oh, very cool.
And so this is what it, it's a rendering of what it may have looked like. And so what's interesting is the White House burned down in 1814,
right,
because of the War of 1812,
right.
And so it's kind of cool to see, the little house and think about it. It's like just not done. It says here that it was cold. It was like living out in the wilderness,
right?
It's just it says this is not glamorous presidential life. It's camping with paperwork.
Yeah. So they said that Abigail Adams used the unfinished East Room, which nowadays the East Wing is the office of the First Lady.
Yeah.
And what we know is part of the area that's being demolished for the new ballroom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
hey.
But you have to be able to progress.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think probably in some future episodes we'll talk about the different. I'm sure it'll be in all these notes of the different progressions and remodels and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. I mean, the thing burnt down, 14 years later. So
yeah, I was going to say, doesn't that suck? That who knows what it took to build that thing,
right?
And they finish it in 1800, and then the damn thing burns down 14 years
like
later.
From what I was reading, they sound like they got it built in. Just to kind of, it was called the President's House. Wasn't really called the White House till later, but unfinished, unplastered walls unplastered, really not done. It was kind of just to get a position for the leadership, but it was used as to hang laundry.
Yeah,
cold, couldn't keep it warm. So I mean, to think that, and then now where we're at,
it's pretty crazy,
pretty darn cool.
So this one's pretty cool. He lost the election of 1800 and the transfer of power. Just like I said a second ago, apparently him and Thomas Jefferson kind of had it out.
Yeah.
And what I think is interesting is, we get so bent out of shape as a society of these elections and running bad ads on each other and just not, just dirty, being dirty about it. But these guys back then, man, they were just as ruthless.
I mean, infighting within your parties. I mean, it was smart individuals trying to kind of push their narratives.
Yeah.
It said here they did not try to cling to power or sabotage the transfer, but they were bitter enemies.
Yeah.
Because of this. Later in life, as we'll talk about, became kind of more friendly.
Yeah.
And we'll learn something pretty fascinating here.
I know what you're thinking, dude.
But
yeah, it's cool though, but because they probably had it out, they had a nasty election, campaigning and all that kind of stuff, and then John Adams lost, and he just handed it over to Thomas Jefferson, and I think that back then people were just amazed at that.
Right.
If that didn't happen, it's like, where would we be?
No, we have Republicans and the Federalists and, and people trying to push narratives from across the ocean, and it's really cool to kind of see that again, they knew there was a bigger picture that they were both trying to mold.
Yeah, but I mean, it even goes back to even George Washington. Like, if he had decided to say, you know what, we have it now. We have all the kings over across the seas, and there's still all these different. It's just a generational thing.
Yeah,
and it's like we didn't do that here, and he could have done it, but he didn't do it.
No.
And so here we are going from the second to the third president, and it's peaceful, just like the George Washington one was. What I want to know, and maybe I can look it up later, was George Washington just like, all right, I did 2 terms, I'm out, because it wasn't in the Constitution that there was term limits.
No,
that was later,
right?
That they put that in.
Sure,
which
sure.
I'm sure we'll get to it.
Well, wasn't this, Adams was dealing with not only Thomas Jefferson, but Alexander Hamilton was involved with it too. We should do maybe a sidebar on some of these maybe other historical figures.
Yeah,
to talk about their kind of correlation and tie to all this here at the beginning.
It says Adams lost to Thomas Jefferson and left office without resistance. He did not try to cling to power or sabotage the transfer. That decision, quiet, bitter, and constitutional, helped normalize democratic succession. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So the next thing is he died on July 4th, 1826, which we'll get to the other part of that here.
Yeah.
Actually, in the next episode, now we can talk about it now.
I mean, it ties together.
So John Adams died on July 4th, 1826. It's the 50th anniversary of our independence, and it was on July 4th.
Right.
Which is crazy. Exactly 50 years after the Declaration of Independence. And interestingly enough, Thomas Jefferson died the exact same day, hours earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's crazy. And we'll talk about it when we get to Thomas Jefferson more. But he was the one that wrote the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah,
and he died on July 4th, 50 years later.
And that's the cool thing is learning about that. And you have the quote here that Adams didn't know.
Yeah.
That Thomas Jefferson had passed.
Yeah, it's not like they could call him, call him and be like,
right.
Hey, Thomas Jefferson died.
Well, we'll learn with Thomas Jefferson, who was a big kind of writer and liked to communicate via letters. They became more friendly.
Yeah.
But the quote you put in here was Adams' last words were Jefferson still lives.
Yeah.
So in the back of his mind, he still was kind of knew that this guy took.
He's like he's outliving
power,
me.
Right, right.
Yeah,
but he wasn't aware that he kind of passed away already.
Yeah, says he helped birth the country and then dies on its symbolic birthday, still thinking about his old rival.
Yeah, yeah, 199 years ago. I mean, it'll be interesting this summer when we celebrate 250 years. If that will be a talking point, and I'm kind of excited to see if that starts to be remembered that these two individuals that shaped the country died on that specific day.
Yeah.
50 years after.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is. I mean, what did it put in here that it's irony? With the irony of them both kind of dying on the same day.
Mm-hmm. So now we move into the next section, lesser known facts about them. And one of the things that really caught me here on this is that he wrote an obsessive amount.
Yeah.
Diaries, letters, arguments. And so I was thinking about that for us in like modern times. Would John Adams have been the guy that's on Facebook complaining about everything?
Oh, man. That's a good question.
Or he's out there on TikTok making TikTok videos of how he's angry about Thomas Jefferson and all the things.
Yeah, no, he probably would have his own. Yeah.
Or complaining that people are calling him fat.
Op-eds in the New York Times is probably what it would have been, just to kind of throw his views back at Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, no, that's but it became a lawyer, so he probably would have followed the law, understanding.
Yeah.
in the quote you have here is that is doing the unpopular thing doesn't, because he believed in the principle, matters more than the applause. So I mean, he defended British soldiers that he was fighting against because it was the right thing to do. Got a few murder cases tied down to lesser verdicts. So he was kind of fighting against the laws of, that he wanted to do what was right and just. Again, tying back to the Declaration of Independence of what we're here for. So, yes, an obsessive amount of diaries and letters and arguments. What did I put here as a note I thought was interesting? These guys were concerned with their roles in history, and they knew.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said,
that it was going to shape the world.
You said in the last episode that like we wouldn't know these things if they hadn't written all this stuff down. And I think we learned with Thomas Jefferson as well that he wrote a lot too.
Yeah.
And did all that kind of stuff.
I think we need to do, when this is all over, and call me crazy for suggesting this, but I think we need to do a trip to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I'm going to Washington, D.C.
I know, but when we're done with all this, we both need to go and do a remote from there.
I know, we should. We will.
And go to the Library of Congress.
You know what, Mike? We're adults. We can do whatever we want.
We can do it. But I would love to see, Library of Congress, or what was it here? We'll get into Thomas Jefferson and talk a little more about that. But these guys' writings, their books, can still be on display. You can go see him.
Says this paper trail is why we know about his insecurities, grudges, and flashes of tenderness. He's one of the most documented founders and one of the most human because of it. So it's pretty cool. The next one, which I wanted to talk about for a second, and I don't know much about Abigail Adams, but Abigail Adams was his wife.
Yep. Met Abigail when she was 15.
Yeah. They got married, and what's interesting is, let's see what does it say? Okay, so it says during Adams' presidencies, Abigail's influence and counsel were significant, sometimes praised and sometimes mocked by opponents as if she were co-governing. And so I think about this, like, I'm sure you tell your wife everything. It's like you talk about your day, how to go today. Imagine if you're president.
Sure.
Hey, what's going on today? So the wives know everything that's going on. It's like a lot of times, a lot of first ladies have like all of these, the things that they're working on and things that they're into, and then some of them you don't hear so much about, but that they know all of the things.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. It's the same type of situation, and then she comes, after he's president, and then she kind of comes out and she's taken all these different roles that she's had and run for president and everything else. Right.
And I think Abigail, her maiden name was Smith, Abigail Smith, her father was in a leadership role. So she grew up in it. Yeah. I think they met because of her father. So, I mean, it seems like it would be a natural progression just to be involved. Yeah. Because it's such a it's such a smaller kind of core. Again, we haven't really expanded our reach within the United States. We're still in those 13 colonies up on the East Coast.
In the East Side.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a West Side.
We didn't even have a West Side. We haven't even made it to Pittsburgh. Haven't even met me.
Yeah. All right. So John Adams had rotundity.
Yeah.
Rotundity. And so early Americans argued about what to call the president because titles could signal monarchy.
Right.
Adams obsessed with dignity and hierarchy and got tangled in the debate and was mocked as a would-be aristocrat.
Right.
So opponents labeled him his rotundity.
Which was interesting, and I'd never heard of that. That was kind of new to read about a little bit about that.
For all the kids out there, it means his royal fatness.
Is that really what it means?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Implying that he wanted royal pomp and was physically vain.
That's funny.
But he was a little fat ass, though. Little John Adams.
How about that?
Anyway, so it becomes a reoccurring theme. He's often punished not for what he does, but for how his personality makes people interpret what he does.
Yeah.
So,
and at the beginning, it mentioned how he was the opposite of George Washington and his beliefs. Yeah.
One interesting point on here is he elevated John Marshall and reshaped the Supreme Court, which I don't know anything about John Marshall. Obviously, from context, he's a Supreme Court justice. But if you think about it, and actually it says right here, and this is for all presidents, but with John Marshall, this appointment outlived Adams' presidency by decades. Even after losing the executive branch, the Federalist influence persisted throughout the judiciary. So anytime there's like a president about to get elected, it's like they want to be able to, pick the justice.
And again, we see that here. A believer in law makes a lot of sense that this is the person that started the Supreme Court.
Yeah, John Marshall was appointed Chief Justice. And so, say, for example, if you got a 40-year-old, 50-year-old, chief or a justice or something, they can serve on the bench for, 20 more years, 30 years.
Yeah, I don't think there are term limits for the Supreme Court, are there?
No, there's not. They're just appointed by the president.
Yeah, until they decide to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
All right, what else we got here? What's the next one you want to talk about?
I think you can talk about the taxation, but I mean, now you're bringing in, our next thing is, talking about him being a Federalist and then having to, again, deal with a very public figure at the time of Alexander Hamilton.
Well, hold on. Before you go any further, I want to tell everybody that, the parties they're starting to split into two parties. There's the Federalists, which they believe in strong government, national bank, and industrial economy.
Well done.
And then the Democratic Republicans believe in state rights, strict interpretation of the Constitution. So John Adams was a Federalist here.
Yeah. No, so that you've got Hamilton, who was in his party, but it was still kind of fighting with him. Again, it's a power grab, maybe. It has here at Adams' peak, he was attacked by opponents for being an authoritarian, which is, a central power, while his allies attacked him for not being authoritarian enough.
Yeah.
But then how do you kind of not, you're coming off of, the Revolutionary War, the previous president who you were the vice president under.
Yeah.
I mean, a monarchy is people who inherit power. It's interesting because he inherited this position.
If you think about today's standards, like the left and the right, and so the Democrats today are more on the liberal side, but then you also have like the extreme leftist, and it's the same with the conservatives or Republican, and then you have the extreme conservatives, and so that's kind of like what they're talking about here.
Yeah. I mean, I think Thomas Jefferson, they fought because I think Jefferson, and I could be wrong, probably am, that considered more of a monarchy view because of how he got into power.
Yeah.
So that's probably where the fighting happened between the two of them. But again, here's Hamilton coming in, who, if you've not seen the play or the musical, it's not the greatest of people, but again, leader that wanted to shape and mold the country. So even though he's in his party, he's fighting with them. We still see that.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it all comes full circle.
So here's a big one that was probably lesser known, is that he was one of the few major founders who did not own enslaved people.
Yeah.
So unlike several other leading founders, Adams did not own enslaved people and expressed moral objection to slavery. That doesn't make the era clean, but it distinguishes his personal practice.
Correct.
And so there was something that I read earlier that he opposed it, but then, it's kind of like playing both sides of it.
Oh, sure.
It's like, because there's all these people that are for it. Maybe he's personally against it, but he's just kind of tiptoeing the line.
Well, I think we're going to start seeing this take even more interesting shape here next. But yeah, you're right. His opposition wasn't national abolishment of the program, but he saw slaves as incompatible with Republican ideals.
Yeah.
and were worried that it would poison the nation's future, which
it did.
Right.
It did. He was right about
Yeah.
it. You know, and then you had old Abe come in and be like, nah.
Yeah. Well, then we'll see in Thomas Jefferson, who wrote it, that, freedom of religion, but didn't always follow his own writings.
Yeah.
So it is fascinating to see. George Washington had them. Then you go to your next president that doesn't believe in them.
Yeah.
And then we go down the road and does have them again.
Yeah. All right. The Jefferson Reconciliation, enemies writing letter writing soulmates. So I just picture picture it like this, because you always see, who is it that you always see? You always see George Bush, George W. Bush,
Right.
and Clinton are always hanging out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. We've seen the photos of Clinton, Obama, George Bush.
Yeah. You know, it's almost kind of like maybe it's a president's club.
Well, it's kind of like when you and I text, right? I mean, two smart individuals
I don't know. I think we're proving everybody otherwise.
passing our views. I mean, you have to, and people in that position have to think, okay, I'm smarter than a lot of people. Who can I connect with, right? Mm-hmm. Bouncing ideas off of each other. So it makes sense that they ended up being soulmates.
Well, they're feeding their
enemies as political enemies.
I think that they were both very smart people, and so like they wanted to be challenged each other.
Right.
Do you think that they thought that, like, you think John Adams was like, you know what, I know that I can change Thomas Jefferson's mind.
Probably thought that,
and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, maybe I'm wise to that, but I know that no matter what, unless people are younger, you really can't change their view on something.
Not people in that position.
Yeah.
It's hard to. It's really hard to.
I mean, even now when people, I have no problem with a politician, because you hear it all the time, like when they're, shit slinging at each other, and they're like, they're like, oh, he flip flopped on this. Yes, I get like certain flip flopping, but then like if you kind of have a epiphany or you start seeing something differently, I don't have a problem if someone flips their view on a particular issue.
Sure.
Because I do that all the time.
Again, I mean, that's what makes this country great, is
I think
can do that.
I think we have to come to it by on our own.
Yeah. We're not forced to believe. What these guys were trying to get across is that we can make our own decisions.
Yeah.
Vote on it, get approval, and that's and it may change 8 years later. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, as the world progresses, as the United States progressed here, I mean, things had to change.
Yeah.
Things had to change.
All right, so moving into scandals and controversies.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about that first one there, we can, or I was going to skip to the Sedition Act, criminalized criticism of government.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We kind of went through the Aliens and Sedition Act for naturalizing aliens and making it harder to become a citizen on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, prosecutions targeted editors and political opponents, feeding the perception that the Federalists were suppressing speech. So if you think about it, like, actually, I think I was thinking Thomas Jefferson on that. But this collided directly with emerging ideas about free expression. Even if the First Amendment was young, the principle was obvious. A government that jails critics will eventually jail everyone. Maybe it was this one.
No, that's right. That's right. Because at the beginning here, this makes a lot of sense. And because of what you put here, I mean, as a person, it said that Adams was a loud human being, a man who believed in the law, feared chaos, and sometimes tried to save the republic by tightening screws. So here it is. He doesn't want the news or people kind of, going out on their own and misconstruing, what he's trying to do as a president, because of fear that it may, spark controversy. I mean, it's really, again, pretty darn interesting.
Yeah. The Sedition Act prosecutions became political theater.
Yeah. Now we hear it as fake news.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's fake news.
Yeah. Now we hear it as fake news.
Yeah.
You know.
Naturalization Act, making citizenship harder on purpose.
Yeah.
One part of the Alien and Sedition package extended the residency requirement for citizenship, delaying political participation by immigrants, many of whom were suspected of supporting Jeffersonian politics. So what does that tell you? It's like John Adams was trying to do that. It's like kind of how they say that the Democrats want all the Mexicans to come in here so that they can get more votes.
Yeah.
So it's similar.
Yeah.
That's what I said in the beginning. It's like the same stuff happened back then as it's happening.
Yeah.
now.
I mean, he's trying to build up, the military, the Navy. We'll see it with Thomas Jefferson as we move across, the states, that people who believed in this country, not coming over and just trying to bring the old monarchy, the king's beliefs, and allowing them to kind of form even more and grow. I mean, he wanted these people to, that's why he said, from 5 years to 14 years that you became a citizen. It was tougher to do so. You had to be here longer, so you were ingrained in what we were trying to do as a country, in those beliefs, in those laws.
All right. We can go over, if I skip one on you, just go back to it. But midnight appointments and entrenching Federalist power. After losing re-election, Adams and the Federalists moved quickly to appoint judges and officials, attempting to preserve influence through judiciary as executive power shifted to Jefferson. So like we said a second ago, Adams, he left peacefully. Mm-hmm. He left office after 4 years, but he made sure to appoint somebody that was going to carry on his views and
be
his
able
beliefs.
to vote and judge on or rule. No, that's not the right rule. What would when a lawyer or a judge rule? I guess a judge rules, right?
Yeah.
On a law, that he can push back on things. Yeah, it's really, again, I mean, I sound like a broken record here, but we even saw it today in the news with the tariffs. The Supreme Court shutting down the tariffs.
Yeah. The election of 1800 got personally brutal. Campaigning was vicious even in the early republic. Adams was smeared as a monarchist, a warmonger, and a man who wanted to create a dynasty. Jefferson was smeared as irreligious and dangerous. Newspapers became partisan weapons, and truth became optional.
Yeah.
And so even back then, it's like, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's the truth. I've always said this with these campaign ads and this kind of stuff. It's like, you can say whatever you want. You can say the lie and do all that. And the problem with it is like, you can come back and you get it out there.
Yeah, right.
You can come back a day later. Oh, yeah, we got that wrong. Oh, well. But you've already infected people's minds with it.
Or if you hear something over and over again, that's what you're going to start to believe. But even though you have this stuff, there was that peaceful transfer. So these guys knew that, you may have been saying this stuff about me, may hurt my feelings, or I may be mad at you, or maybe mortal enemies. But you lost again. Adams lost, and he knew that he had to transfer to Thomas Jefferson. Again, going back to his MO of being someone that wanted and knew that he had to follow the law. It was the law to do it that way, and that's what he did. It got personal. It got like you said, brutal, nasty. Again, we see it nowadays. But at the end of the day, when he lost, he knew that he lost,
and
he
he
had to
left.
Yeah.
The controversy isn't just that it was nasty; it's that the modern smear election template was already being written in 1800s.
Sure.
So, all right. So here's some weird things. He was brilliant and chronically insecure at the same time. Adams had enormous intellectual confidence in principle, law, republicanism, constitutional design, but also personally insecure about reputation and legacy. I think we saw that with George Washington too. It's like these guys cared about what people think. And I think that we get into a habit of telling everybody now, well, don't care about what everybody thinks. Yes, I agree with that too, but there's a healthy amount of making sure that you care about what people think.
Sure.
There's a level of it.
Sure.
And some people swing it way too far, one way. So I think that it's good that he cared about it. He didn't want to look like an idiot, I guess.
These guys were so smart.
Yeah. He wanted to be
kind of quirky.
He wanted to be respected more than he wanted to be loved, which I think that's a good thing because we have politicians even now that just want to be loved.
Right.
They don't. It's like, no, I want
Ego.
Yeah, ego.
Right. These people want to be told that they're the smartest person in the room.
Yeah,
Of course.
It says he deeply resented being mocked.
Yeah.
So-
Well, he's got Hamilton in his party going behind his back. I mean, all these are setting up for. Of course, someone's going to be insecure.
Yeah. It says, this is what I made a note of this. This says Adams is the guy who writes a 12-page essay explaining
That was interesting.
why he's not mad, while obviously being mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like him on Facebook complaining about He's like, his post probably starts with, I'm not really mad about this,
Yeah.
but
I read one of those this morning.
it's not a big deal. It's no big deal. But here's 4 paragraphs
Yeah.
of why.
I just want to bring this to your attention.
Yeah, I just
Kind
want
of
to
thing.
bring it to your attention.
Exactly.
He could be blunt to the point of self-sabotage, which I think that a lot of us are like that.
Yep.
His rotundity.
It mentioned here complained openly. Is he complaining to his wife, to Abigail?
and refused to flatter people he needed politically.
Right.
So he says he criticized his allies, complained openly, and refused to flatter people he needed politically. This made him look principled and simultaneously impossible. It sounds like Trump right there.
A little bit.
His rotundity mockery stuck because he felt it. The insult landed because Americans were hypersensitive about hierarchy. Adams hated being ridiculed. He took his reputation seriously. He had a volcanic temper under the lawyer brain.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're so smart, I mean, it just comes out because you don't know any other way to control it.
Yeah. It says he could be warm and witty, but he also had a short fuse, especially when he felt misunderstood or morally outraged. His writings show how quickly he could escalate from reason to fury. It makes me think of like his friendship with Thomas Jefferson later in life. You think that they're just fueling each other?
Probably. And then it said he lived at 90 years old. So, I mean, if at 90 when he passes, do you just get to the point where you're like, okay.
But as he's dying, he's like, damn you, Jefferson.
Damn you, TJ.
But he beat him, though.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
That's all right.
That's right.
He lost his children,
Yeah,
watched his friends die.
I wrote that.
I actually made a note of all of his kids, but I don't have it on here.
Yeah, Jefferson suffered through the same kind of issues too. But I don't have a note on that though. I mean, it goes in this. We talked about Abigail kind of being his advisor, moral compass. So family was probably big, right? Yeah. Especially family that grew up in some sort of leadership there too. Mentioned here that she understood the public pressure. Probably saw it in her father. But it also provided some stability, which you need in that role. Mm-hmm. And if he's got no support within his party, and his party's fighting with him and going behind his back, then you have to have someone that's gonna stand there stoically for you to tell you you're doing the right thing. Again, it goes back to that ego thing of telling you that, hey, this is right. You're right and just here with what the rules that you're following. And
it just says, like we're looking at right here, it says Abigail served as an advisor and moral compass, and she understood public life's pressures.
Yeah.
And so, I really think that every man needs to have a good woman, a good, strong woman. I think that as we get through these presidents, I think that we're going to see that these first ladies probably don't get the credit that they deserve
Probably not.
on keeping the guys focused, keeping them, when they're down, cheering them up.
That's right.
And just kind of keeping them in check.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, he distrusted the crowd and feared democracy would eat itself. Adams believed in Republican government, but distrusted mass passion. He feared the crowd's propaganda and faction could destroy liberty from within. Well, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That fear shaped his tolerance for tough laws during crisis, including support for measures that punish political speech.
Right.
In his mind, order protected freedom.
Right. So you see him John Adams putting in place this Alien Sedition Act, and then we will see something very similar in our next discussion. Putting pressure on the states to kind of making it harder to become a citizen, or more laws behind it to become a citizen. And if you're not, you're gone.
Yeah.
And we'll see something very similar when we talk about Thomas Jefferson here. Again, we're trying to shape at the time, the United States to what it is today. And it's really kind of, again, that these laws put in place years and years and years ago, some worked.
Yeah.
And some didn't. You didn't always follow your beliefs, even though you were telling people them, but this is what we had as leadership.
And then one of the last things here, just talking about his last words were all about Jefferson.
Yeah.
Worried to death about old TJ. And then he was buried with Abigail in Quincy, founders as family, not myths. So.
Yeah. Quincy, Massachusetts. Interesting. As I looked that up there, it's known, and that's a place I'd like to go see. Right, minutes outside of Boston, it said it's known as the City of Presidents.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Founded in 1792. And that's where they kind of all met too. So it's pretty interesting. Now, City of Presidents, because of, it was a smaller area, right? Yeah. As we get into Thomas Jefferson, he's moving down into Washington in Virginia. But I thought it was cool that that's what the city is known as nowadays. Yeah. It looks pretty from what the photos that I looked there too. But founded in 1792. So again, when was Nashville found?
I don't know.
Late 1800s?
I should know.
Right.
But I don't.
Right. I mean, as we kind of move across the country from east to west, another thing that we will see as we're learning about these presidents is that they've had to start navigating the world.
Yeah.
Getting involved with different individuals. Here we're dealing with, Adams and George Washington. We're dealing with individuals who'd come over from Europe, living those beliefs. We've got to write these laws and start putting these laws into effect. So it's tough when you've got, if all you've known for generations is kings, monarchies, and then you're trying to mold your laws and beliefs into these individuals. There's no way. There's no wonder why he had these acts put together.
Yeah, it's like you got to wait for the next generation.
Yeah.
And the generation that was born here,
right,
for it to really get rolling. But John Adams has been a fun one. It's kind of cool that you see George. We're looking at the foundation of the country.
Yeah.
In these presidents and what they went through, and I think what I learned out of all of this, with the last episode as well as this episode, is that these are just normal, hardcore guys, very smart, like you said earlier. They're probably scared to death.
Absolutely.
They're like, what have we gotten ourselves into?
Absolutely.
We're just gonna start it's like if I said, you know what, I'm gonna go over here out in that field and I'm gonna build me a house. Yeah. It's like I don't know how to build a house.
No. Right. It absolutely. I mean, I didn't of George Washington because of what he did with the wars. I mean, admittedly, really didn't know much, if anything, of John Adams. I mean, the name.
Yeah.
But, we're starting to get, as we'll see in our next episode, of a little more, a president who's a little more famous.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
But John Adams mattered.
He had to have a George Washington to have a John Adams. You have to have a John Adams to have a Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah. Well,
and at the end, they all worked together. They all were in that room.
That's the problem now, is like you can't get them all in the room to talk to each other about stuff. That, like I said in the last episode, it's like you can fight with each other and then be like, hey, let's go sit down and have a beer and talk about it. Because they're passionate about sharing their ideas, and they're trying to make the other one see their idea. Well, look how much better this idea is, and the other one's coming back with like, no, but they always found a middle ground.
That's right.
It's like we can't ever find a middle ground on anything anymore.
No, and that could be the downturn of this country. But
it could be. How do you change that though in today's political climate?
I mean, to me, it's forcing term limits.
Yeah.
allowing new people, men and women, to come in and write new laws.
Yeah.
Not just sit in there for, in Congress and
Yeah, it's
Senate
like
for 40 years.
holding it prisoner.
A hostage, right?
40 years and the country's 250 years old.
Right.
And,
And it's okay not to vote on laws. It's okay not to show up.
they're like the old cancers that are, telling the new people how to do.
That's right.
It's like, when you're at a job or something, you've got like the cancers that are like, oh, let's not do anything. And then they rub off on the new people that are in there.
Right. Nowadays it's, you have to have a certain amount of money to do it anyway, but to individuals, unless you're really motivated, a lot of times it's natural reaction just say, well, it's not worth the fight.
Yeah.
There should be. You want to fix the government, you should be able to you should have term limits for these people.
Yeah.
That's what they had here.
I know.
There's a lot of smart people out there. Not you and I, but
Well, I did. In our defense, I did put the disclaimer at the beginning of this to make sure that people knew that I didn't know what I was talking about. You do know what you're talking about.
No. We're gonna see a little more exciting here when we get into Thomas Jefferson. But again, learning something new is not a bad thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is a good one. If we see John Adams here in the future, we're going to get a picture with him.
I hope so.
But we'll just have to see if that will happen. See you on the next one. We out.
Bye now.
Down.